Labour weekend, Auckland, New Zealand, and the annual convergence on Turner's car auction rooms in Penrose is bigger and brighter than any year before. This is no ordinary motoring event, and this is no ordinary year, for this is the 10th anniversary of the premier event on New Zealand's motor racing calendar. For many of the record 240 field, it'll be their first experience of this unique tarmac road race. For 22, it's the 10th time they will have backed up. And for just 2, they're 10th in the same car. Now that's dedication.
This is the 95 badge just here, and Mike John said he'd have another one. We kind of just kept on going in the same car. It's a 40-year-old car this year. It's 1,000 cc's, weighs with driver and crew about 900 kilos, so it's quite a heavy car. And what we love is finishing ahead of half the field, and if we can harass a few Porsches on the way, it's wonderful.
When I first saw the idea, I thought I had to be part of this. It's something pretty blooming special, and it is. It's really special, something extra special.
What's changed for you in 10 years?
Cars got a lot faster. We used to finish in the top 15, 20. Now we're 50th, 60th, but it's still a magic event.
Mel Clark's been in all 10, but not in the same car. But then he has built more than 60 cars for competitors over the years, so finding time to build his own is always difficult.
Well, we've prepared 15 cars for this year's event, and so it's taken a while to get this one done because of that reason. So we're pretty involved in that side of the thing.
So what kind of history does his Rover V8 have?
Well, it really hasn't got any just yet. Hopefully we'll have some at the end of the week, and hope it's all good. Hope I don't see you guys on the side of the road too much.
We'll be the judge of that, Mel. Nelson Marshall has missed one event in the last decade, but his trusty Ford Capri hasn't.
It's only failed to finish once in those 10 years. We had a small problem with the engine, which was terminal.
Now, speaking of terminal problems, the event organiser.
Okay, chaps, this is for 10 years, so there's not too many of these. How many? Only 2 of you have done them in the same car, but believe it or not, there's 22 people.
Really?
Yeah, and then there's about 15 officials, so it's not bad. They're all mad.
If they're mad, Mike, why do they keep coming back in droves?
Definitely been drinking, mate.
They see it as a challenge, and that's it, and we make it reasonably easy for them, and we'll let anything run, providing it's got all the safety in it. So I think they just like it, and the camaraderie and all that sort of thing.
And let's not forget the rubber. Dunlop, like their product, sticks to the road that once a year leads out of Auckland, bound for a finish later in the last week of October. Their reward, sales and exposure to bird. Sunday is the last chance for the official test run, a prologue of 3 stages to gauge just how quick you really are. It's also a chance to dial your head in, settle your nerves, and hopefully keep the red mist at bay. Former New Zealand rally champion Neil Allport, well remembered for his escapades in his famous Ford Escort, is setting the early pace in the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 8. So how seriously is he looking for a win in his first competitive Dunlop Targa?
That's what I'd like to do, and is obviously win the event. There's a lot of unknowns here for us though, so many different cars, driver combinations. And 900 kilometres, so you just can't underestimate the event, and I think that's what we've got to get our head around quickly.
By the looks of things, Neil hasn't lost his touch and isn't wasting any time getting his head and the car into top gear. But the 2002 winner of this event reckons he's the quickest.
I was interviewed the other day on a program, and I said basically that. I think we're the fastest in tarmac in New Zealand, and Jim obviously in Australia, so yes, it's down under decider, as you put it.
A down under decider, eh? That means the Aussies are coming. Seems their cars are here, but the drivers are still dealing to the support races of the Indy 300 weekend on the Gold Coast. Leading the charge from across the ditch will be reigning champion Tony Quinn in his turbo Porsche 4-wheel drive. And despite the warnings of organiser Mike John that you'd have to be stupid to go off in the prologue, some just can't help themselves. But in fairness to Brett Porter, that wasn't really avoidable.
Disastrous. It's a perfectly cambered right-hand sweeper. And what happened is we've just found out that the accelerator jammed behind the roll cage, and instead of slowing down in the corner, it just took off. There was nothing we could do.
For the other 238 competitors, day one dawns bright and hopeful. Wellington beckons, and the first of 9 special stages gets underway. The Aussies have finally turned up. Tony Quinn showing little sign that missing prologue really mattered. Australia might claim this driver as their own, but Gentleman Jim is Kiwi through and through, and he's back in a Porsche GT3 for his second attempt at Targa. For Jim Richards, it doesn't matter what the race is, just so long as he is racing.
I like all sorts of racing. I've done NASCAR, I've done stock cars, I've done all sorts. So no, it's just another facet to the sport which I enjoy. We go into all events with no expectations at all, and we're never disappointed.
Now that's easy for Jim to say. He's won an astonishing 7 Targa Tasmanias. You better watch out, Anton. The action's about to heat up. And how's this for an early Kodak moment?
I hope you had your cameras on that left hand, mate. I just pulled it down gear a bit fast and it just had absolutely backed it in there. I thought, this is the end.
Peter Johnson's got the corner mastered in the GVI Peugeot. He'll be happy just to get to the end of the day.
It's still a sprint car. You know, they were made as sprint cars. Back in '84, they had helicopters following them with diffs and turbos and gearboxes to keep them going. So it's, you know, it's very hard to make it an endurance car. But hey, I love the character of the car, the character of the event, and that's why I run it. So, but it does bring me a bit of pain.
Not everyone's mastered the art of cornering. But don't they love it? Let's face it, if you're going to close their roads, at least turn it on for the locals. No problems, though, for Mr. Quick in the RX-7. Or is there?
Well, halfway through the first stage, we lost power steer, so we lost it. We really haven't had it all day. It won't turn back on itself, you know, it's quite an unusual feeling. You've actually got to, you turn into the corner, and then you've actually got to turn out of the corner. But you're used to it now. I don't know how much time I've lost at the moment, but I think it's quite significant. So, yeah, I just at the moment, yeah, chase mode again tomorrow.
It hasn't been plain sailing for one of New Zealand's premier yachtsmen. The pit stop is not where Grant Dalton wanted to be on day one.
Oh, I just blew the gearbox, basically. We're going really nicely. Stage 3, I think we're 5th overall and 2nd in class, and yeah, let go coming into a T intersection. So they put a new gearbox in it, but it's cost me a couple of stages, so quite a bit of time, but it's a long race. It's just part of it. Not strong enough, basically.
And still in the pit stop, Mel. Fancy seeing you here.
Today we've had a bit of issues with the new car, and there's teething problems and things like that. So we broke a gear lever this morning. So we fixed the gear lever, and then the clutch started flaring in stage 3. And I thought it was me keeping my foot on the clutch. Maybe it was because we stuck in one gear during the first 2 stages. But now the clutch is slipping badly, so we're just pulling the gearbox out to have a look at the clutch and just see what's going on, which is up in here. And we've got to take headers and all sorts of things out of the car. It's quite a mission. It's very difficult to work on this part of the car, and that could have something to do with the guy that built it, I think.
Emma Gilmore is no woman driver. This young lady is a rising rally star and not frightened to try her hand at tarmac racing. And in her first Dunlop Targa as a driver, Emma has world champion cyclist Greg Henderson along for the ride. Judging by this, it might be a bit like riding the bar of Greg's bike.
Quite bumpy. Good for you. Bumpy road.
The roads might be closed, but in some places, restrictions still apply to maintain an acceptable average speed through each stage. Through roadworks, drivers must adhere to the posted speeds. Once past the roadworks, it's back to business as usual. The Dunlops are good, but some of these guys really are expecting too much. Like a chip off the old block, Stephen Richards powers the WRX Impreza as you'd expect. But it's Stephen's dad who finishes the day on top as the Targa entourage converges on New Plymouth for the first time in the event's history.
Left onto this long single lane bridge and then right at the end of it.
The defending champion Tony Quinn is 38 seconds behind Richards, with Neil Allport hanging on for third outright.
I was hoping for a bit more wet weather, to be honest, because that's really going to be the only thing that's going to save my bacon here. We're just tapped out here in the dry, trying to hang on to these Porsches, and unfortunately it's just starting to burn the car up, you know, the tyres and the brakes, so we've got to make a decision as to whether we're going to keep pushing this hard to try and hang on to them, or we're going to back off, and I'm not sure what we're going to do yet.
The remaining top 10 looks like this. Expat Gavin Richards, back from the States, is fourth outright, almost a minute behind, with a lead of 30 seconds over Mike Delmont and his Turbo 2002. Will Sellis is staying in touch in sixth outright, with PJ content to be in the top 10 after day one. Nothing separates Russell Kempnich and Steve Richards, with Mark Parsons' classic TR8 rounding out the top 10.
Happy birthday, Targa. Wonderful 10 years so far. Let's do the next 10 years even better. Thank you.
Happy 10th to Targa. I don't know how you're going to match this year's one.
A decade ago, there were just 7 to 8 special stages a day, and in between, it was a quick tour, more compact than now. But it was an eye-opener for the 79 competitors, and the stage was set for a decade of tarmac racing to come. If it's Tuesday, it's Taranaki and day 2. 130 kilometres of special stages today and some jumps.
Look at that jump! Holy f***! Sorry! Oh, okay, we're going left!
Did I warn you about the jumps? With all the time spent of the year, some of these guys should have had pilot's licenses. In 900 kilometres of special stages in Dunlop Targa, preserving tyres is the name of the game. Brake lockups cause flat spots, which are not good for the rubber. But then, neither is this. Laying rubber is actually counterproductive to winning Targa. From the looks of things, there's plenty who have little desire to win. Counterproductivity seems to be the name of the game. But there's an art to laying rubber with style, and Ashton Wood is the master. Mike Vincent isn't 16, and no, he wasn't illegal street dragging last night. But you'd be forgiven for thinking otherwise. Good on you, Mike. But the serious end of the pack is having trouble too. Neil Orport struggling with an unbalanced electronic traction control in the four-wheel drive Evo 8. What does that mean exactly? I'm not too sure, but it sounds like a great excuse. Steve Millen is a tarmac racing regular. The champion expat's love for Dunlop Targa sees him behind the wheel of the Turbo XR6 Falcon for the 4th year now. But the fire in his belly is matched by the fire under the bonnet today, and his placings take a dive accordingly. And speaking of taking a dive, this looks like a pretty serious one.
Too fast, back gave way, hit the bank, and it flicked onto its side. If we're lucky, we'll better get it onto its wheels and start and we'll keep driving. Are we off? Part of the game.
Obviously, no condition is terminal for Dr. Nick and his 71 Charger. They just don't make him like that anymore. It's the defending champion Aussie Tony Quinn who's the man to beat today though, hunting down event leader Gentleman Jim. But there's nothing gentlemanly about Neil Orport's intentions with Gavin Riches as he holds on to third outright. Move it or lose it, Gav. You can get off the horn now, Neil. You'll just have to be content with 4th for now, Gav. Every year, PJ's battle with his French rally car are of Napoleonic proportions, but so far he has the upper hand with his Peugeot, despite a turbo pipe blowing off earlier in the day. Things have been uphill all day for Mr. Quick Anton Tallet as he battles to get back in touch with the leaders. He'll be looking for any advantage his new sequential 6-speed can give him. Giant killer Joe McAndrew, fresh from a win in the recent London-Sydney Marathon, has done nothing more than change the oil in the Honda Integra R. And proving almost any car can make the top 10, Mike Delmont in his 71 factory BMW Turbo 2002. Also in the top 10, Steve Richards in his super cheap WRX, only it's 30 years newer than Delmont's BM. Dunlop Targa competitors are a loyal lot. Take Maurice Shapley, who drove his 74 Monaro for donkey's years. Morris is so passionate about the General's Monaros, he built a new one for this anniversary event.
The engine's dead standard, but we've just increased the capacity of the sump. We thought the engine had plenty of power. It's probably about 250 kilowatts. We've put a button clutch in it, heavier drive shaft. We've put a CAS limited diff centre in it, which gives us virtually a lock setup, and we've got a Harrop rear hat. That's all gear that Peter ran as well, and the beauty of that is it gives us a lot more support in the rear, and we're allowed to run a lot more oil. We've sort of themed it a bit for endurance racing, and of course the Targa is the biggest enduro you get in a rally.
And definitely bitten by the bug is 10-year veteran Mike Lowe. No greater contrast exists from Shapley's powerful V8 than Lowe's tiny Abarth. Believe it or not, Mike and his 6-foot frame do fit in the Bambina, but not much else does. Even the engine doesn't seem to fit. And And the onboard camera, well, as you can see, we had to put that on the roof. Surely such a small car must be hard to keep together in a long-distance race like this one.
Well, I think the preparation's the big one. The engine itself is in what we call a rally tune, so it's not completely a competition engine. And, you know, make sure everything's ready, bolts together properly, and make sure you start on those excellent condition and can start easy, so that's fine. We've pulled everything off again tonight, and we'll just check it, put it back together again. Tomorrow will be my job tomorrow again.
When Dunlop Targa first ran these roads a decade ago, Barry Kirkbird was a certain top 10 contender in his Lotus Cortina. But times have changed. He's still leading his class, but the competition is much keener now. And he'll be lucky to make the top 100 in outright terms. There's always a certain amount of luck in motor racing, and Lady Luck is shining on Nelson Marshall's Capri toward the end of Special Stage 21.
How often do you drive into a car park and find the front wheel drop off after having been almost 200 k's down the straights of the previous stage? I mean, that's amazing.
Any idea why it's done it?
Old age, I think.
Old age, yeah, but what about the car, Nelson? We all know what newcomers are, but what are all-comers? All-comers are newcomers to Dunlop Targa this year, a class introduced to allow the hot classic and post-classic cars to race each other, rather than the more standard classics. Auckland's Rex Alder is charging hard in his Toyota AE86, chasing down Ashton Wood. But both are on the edge and under pressure to catch class leader Mark Parsons. Early modern category has been dominated by the MR2 of Colin Meadows, but the ever-consistent and fast Carol Liston in her CRX is keeping him honest. Carol is the leading female driver, but the rising rally star Emma Gilmore is taking her lesser-powered Suzuki Ignis to its limits.
Coming up. It goes to the right. So it's a left. Corner Tyson.
Co-driver Greg Henderson's on his bike racing in the Tour of Southland today, so Emma's mum has hopped in for a driving lesson. I just wonder who's teaching whom here.
Like it's tighter than a 9. Tighter than a 9.
This morning's run has caused its share of mayhem. US-based Kiwi Gavin Riches, up as high as 5th outright yesterday, ponders what went wrong.
I don't know. Must have been just a screw-up. But we'll carry on. We'll see you guys in a while. We'll go have service and get to the next stage.
And almost on cue, PJ's luck, like his turbo, has turned turtle in the GBI Peugeot.
We lost boost somewhere, which is a bit of a shame because we've been going so well for the last 3 days. So it's a bit disappointing actually because the gearbox is strong, the motor's strong, and now we've got a turbo problem. The last 3 days have been good. I love those Taranaki roads yesterday, and even the ones this morning, we were fast. We were running sort of top 4 or 5. So and doing it with ease. But you know, it's been a fabulous event, and it's just lovely to be here in Wanganui and around all these other lovely cars. So we'll just wait and see what happens.
And what's been happening for Steve Millen then?
2 stages ago the car was great. We went through there really quick. The handling was good and the braking was good, but we got into the next stage and I could tell right away in the first couple of corners that there was a real problem with the brakes. So I was taking it a bit easy anyway. We came to an intersection and just wouldn't stop. Went plowed straight through and through a bunch of just tape, which was quite not a problem. Backed out of there and got going again. I was just sort of taking it easy through, and we came down a hill and go left onto a bridge, and applied the brakes really early, but nothing. Just locked the rears, and it skidded through a farmer's fence and big wooden rails and stuff, you know. So it's a shame because the Falcon's a, you know, a good car, but just a little something in a master cylinder can cause a problem. It's not the Ford part, it's an aftermarket part. So, you know, really the Falcon's well suited to these roads because they're fast and flowing and high speed, but we're losing a bit of time right now.
As the third day of Dunlop Targa draws to a close, it's a chance to let your hair down at Manfield Racetrack. For those less concerned with tyre wear, this is playtime. And no one plays harder than Waioku's Chris Allen. 700 horsepower of heavily modified blue oval under the bonnet, and the tyres are bleeding rubber all over the track. On the leaderboard, there's been a change in the two top positions, with Tony Quinn surrendering his lead to both Jim Richards and Neil Allport. Gavin Richards' excursion has cost him dearly, especially with Mr. Quick, Anton Talent, clawing his way back into contention, and he's opened up a sizable lead over fifth Stephen Richards. Will Sellis has elevated himself to sixth, and London Sydney Marathon winner Joe McAndrew makes his first appearance on the Team Talk leaderboard along with Harry Dodson. Russell Kepnich consistently remains on the board, with Shane Merland grabbing the... The serenity of day 4 is broken by the dulcet tones of Sinard.
Can you wait? I've got a job though. Hang on. 43, Patrick Robson.
Sinard, that's specially imported, noisy and rude Tasmanian.
For the last time, it's our 10th anniversary. Aren't you going to sing happy birthday to us? Oh, you pack of wackers, Wally.
Well, I'm very keen on gardening and I grow bonsai trees. And the first sport I was really interested in was archery. And after that came flying, and when flying got too expensive, I took up veteran athletics. Well, this is my first Targa. I got my national rally licence in July. Well, we've just had off. We had to go back to Rotorua from New Plymouth to put another gearbox in, and we just got back yesterday evening, and I've been looking through the route books and I'm feeling a bit nervous.
And here's another good-looking veteran that isn't showing her age.
Okay. It's actually done about 597,000 Ks.
So, has she had a facelift?
Just preventative maintenance. If something looks a little bit second-hand, replace it, and try and keep it on the road.
If there's one car that's the new car of choice for Dunlop Targa these days, it seems to be the Integra R. Maybe it was Joe McAndrew's crowning moment in the London Sydney Marathon. Or maybe it was young Preston Johnson's improved performance when he got behind the wheel of his own Integra R. Whatever it was enough to convince Bill Williams to lease one himself and join the growing listed converts.
Now watch the road, not Preston. Top up here goes left, I believe.
Very reliable, as they proved. This car came second in the London to Sydney rally recently in the hands of Mike Montgomery, and very, very reliable. It's a modern car, 2001, so you know, can target a lot of older cars, and modern cars are great. There's just a lot of clever things about modern cars that you just can't build into older cars, and I'm just learning to the limits of the car. The car's got very high limits for adhesion and handling and drivability. Again, proven by the fact that they were first, second and third in the London to Sydney.
And unfortunately for Bill, the London Sydney must have taken its toll, and his hired Honda expires later in the day. But Smokin' Joe is doing just that, keeping himself in touch in the top 10.
Dave's actually been driving pretty cautiously in the start out of the day, and the car's been going really strong, so he decided to push a bit this morning, and he had a really good stage before and felt comfortable and decided to go for it, and yeah, went a bit down here, but yeah, but it's the only time we've come close to crashing, and we actually crashed, so it's a bit of a bummer.
We did pretty well though. We're walking away, and that's what matters.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so what's your plans from here on for the day?
Push.
And Neil Allport is pushing too, pushing on past Tony Quinn, who suffered a time penalty for exceeding 200 kilometres per hour, the mandatory limit imposed to contain average speeds. pushing way too hard is Lionel Rogers in his Navman Z. Don't worry, Lionel, help's on the way.
Okay. We came up the hill and we passed the Falcon GT, yellow one, and it came into the corner too hot. Ran out of skill at the wrong time and backed it in actually. We came through backwards, spinning, and the front came down real heavy down here, and you can see the front's all buckled, the wheels are pointing different directions, so she's not going to go any further. I'm just sorry for Leanne because
no, that's okay.
She's had a crook old time of it a couple of times, and we were hoping to get to the end, you know. It's a shame. It's done 9 Targas. This is that car's 10th Targa, and I haven't dented it like this before. I've touched the guard a couple of times and things like that. A bit of a shame to see it getting towed up there like that, I can tell you that. Poor bloody car.
Now, don't lose heart. There's still dozens more cars. And look, there's Chris Allen. Come on, Chris, give into it. Up front, the race for first is getting interesting. Tony Quinn slips a place with his time penalty.
It's probably been a very, very bad day at the office for us. And we came off on the first bit of gravel and went up on 2 wheels. It was ugly, and luckily we landed. It broke the power steering lines and the clutch assist thing, whatever it is. So I've driven the rest of the day with no power steering and a very, very hard clutch. So it's been a real battle today, and I'm surprised he's still in charge.
Anton Tallett's still on a charge, clawing his way back into contention after losing so much time on day 1. His speed limiter indicator light almost permanently glowing, but the result is 4th outright, and the VIP Pet Foods Porsche is in his sights.
Jim Richards is very fast. I don't think we're going to be able to catch him, but certainly Tony Quinn is achievable.
Only time will tell, but there are still plenty of other considerations between here and Wellington, not the least of which is tyres. One thing's for certain though, our race leader Jim Richards always has a positive spin.
No, we're fine with tyres, no problem. These Porsches are great on their tyres, so the, 100,000 K, one set of tyres, no problem.
The tour, ideal for those who don't want to put their precious cars at risk to race full on, or simply want a taste of what Dunlop Targa offers. It's also a great opportunity to introduce people to motor racing who might not otherwise get a chance to take part.
It certainly is a lot different to my day job. I guess the only similarity is that I'm trying to still keep it on the straight and narrow like when I'm driving on the golf course.
Golf pro Phil Tautarangi is back for his 2nd year in Targa, helping raise awareness for the Cure Kids cause. Dunlop Targa and the Nava Tour have pledged support again this year for the charity, aiming to raise money by various means. This year, as well as proceeds from the bottled water sales, teams have been encouraged to purchase bronze, silver and gold stickers.
Cure Kids was invited to become the official charity for the Targa Rally last year. Sue and Mike John very generously had met us the year before, saw what we did, and then they said we would very much like you to become the official charity. We are so delighted.
The second last day is relatively relaxing by Targa standards, only 5 special stages. Conservation is the name of the game, but someone forgot to tell classic leader Ian Mollison.
Yeah, well, we just headed into a left-hand corner, and all of a sudden I felt the front right drop and saw the front right-hand wheel take off in front of us, and I thought this is fairly serious. And then I saw the fence coming up and thought, oh well, that'll stop us. and all of a sudden we're looking at daylight, and I thought, oh, this is going to hurt, and it did.
Don't scratch the paint, eh?
There was a bit of air, there was a bit of bump, there was a bit of roll, there was a bit of twist, and there was all sorts of things in there, yeah. And we sort of ended up on our side, roughly where you can see the car now. Yeah, a bit sore on the back of the rib cage, but other than that, I'm fine. It's a detriment to good race seats, good roll cage, and a good car. Pity we had to do it on Targa's 10th birthday, but hey, that's motor racing.
It's been a long week. The longest Targa ever in distance is also the longest in days. And the longest of those is about to begin in the ultimate road race. 10 special stages from Hastings to Wellington. And then there's the weather. Unbelievably, after 700 kilometres of racing, there are still tight battles through the field. Fifth placed Will Sellis, only just in front of Stephen Richards.
It's going to be a tremendous battle today. It's a very long day racing down to Wellington. We've got a 4-second margin between us and Steve Richards for 5th place, so we're going to be pushing very hard all the way.
The car's been absolutely fault-free. You know, we've really had a great run with it so far, so I'm very, absolutely ecstatic about that.